Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I'm a dedicated math teacher who's been in the game for about 7 years now. I love my job, I love my students, and I especially love my wife Gina. Gina and I met in college. We were both education majors, though she ended up going into social work instead. We've been married for 5 years and we've always been a team, supporting each other through thick and thin. That support was put to the test just a couple of days ago when Gina had a nasty fall and broke her ankle. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. We were out for a hike in a local park, something we do every weekend to unwind before the work week. Gina was ahead of me on the trail when she suddenly slipped on some loose gravel. I heard her cry out and saw her tumble down a small incline. By the time I reached her, she was clutching her ankle, her face pale with pain. I called an ambulance right away and we spent the rest of the day at the hospital. The x-rays showed a bad break that needed surgery to reset properly. I took Monday off work to be with her, holding her hand as they prepped her for the operation, waiting anxiously in the sterile hospital corridor for hours until the surgeon came out to tell me everything went well. That night, as Gina dozed off under the influence of pain meds, I remembered the teacher training scheduled for Tuesday morning. It was about some new math program called Interactive Extreme Learning, or something like that. I was torn between staying with Gina and going to the training. When Gina woke up, we talked it over. I said, "I can skip the training if you need me here. Your health is more important than some computer program. No, you should go. We can't afford for you to miss more work, especially with these hospital bills coming up. I'll be okay. Mom's coming to stay with me tomorrow. Are you sure? I don't want to leave you alone." "I am sure. Go learn that program and come back to wow me with your newfound tech skills." So reluctantly, I agreed to go to the training. Tuesday morning came and I kissed Gina goodbye, promising to check in during breaks. I arrived at the training location, a stuffy classroom in a district office, with just a minute to spare. The room was buzzing with chatter as teachers caught up after that summer break. I found an empty seat and quickly set up my laptop, opening all the websites the presenter listed on a board. I even did that silly welcome drawing thing they wanted us to do on some online platform. As I finished up, I noticed a text from my mother-in-law. I knew Gina was worried about our finances, especially with the unexpected medical expenses. So when I saw the text mentioning a payment alert on Gina's phone, I decided to quickly check our bank account. It only took a few seconds, but of course, that's when Miss Nosy decided to make her grand entrance into my life. I felt a sharp poke on my shoulder. Then another, and another. It was more like jabbing than tapping. I turned to see a woman with thick rimmed glasses perched low on her nose, glaring at me like I was a misbehaving student. "You need to look at the screen she's showing you." I was taken aback by her aggressive tone but tried to explain. "Sorry, I was just..." But she cuts me off, her voice rising to a shout that made everyone in the room turn and stare. "You need to get your priorities straight." The room fell silent. I could feel my face burning with anger. Who did this woman think she was? She knew nothing about me or my situation. In that moment, something inside me snapped. "You know what? You're right. I do need to get my priorities straight." I stood up, my chair scrabbling loudly against the floor. "My wife is in the hospital. I'll be leaving now." The look on low-glasses lady's face was priceless. Her mouth hung open in shock, and I swear I saw a flicker of regret in her eyes. But it was too late for apologies now. As I packed up my things, I could hear the district personnel pulling low-glasses lady aside, their hushed voices clearly disapproving. One of my colleagues, Elijah, called out to me as I headed for the door. "Love you, man, it's gonna be fine. Text me later, okay?" I gave him a grateful nod and walked out, my head held high. The drive back to the hospital gave me time to cool down and reflect. I realized that low-glasses lady, in her misguided attempt to enforce rules, had actually done me a favor. She'd reminded me of what truly mattered, being there for the people I love. When I walked into Gina's hospital room, her face lit up with surprise and joy. "What are you doing here? I thought you had that training today." I did, but I realized my priorities needed some adjusting. "How are you feeling?" As I sat down beside her bed and took her hand, I knew I'd made the right decision. We spent the rest of the day talking, laughing, and making plans for her recovery. The worries about the money and missed work faded into the background. We'd figure it out together just like we always did. A few days later, I received an email from the district office. It was an apology for the incident at the training, along with an offer for a one-on-one session to catch up on what I'd missed. They also mentioned that they will be reviewing their policies on personal device use during trainings to allow for emergency situations. It turned out that my little act of malicious compliance had sparked a much needed conversation about empathy and flexibility in our school district. Low Glassed Lady even sent a personal apology note. As for the interactive extreme learning program, I ended up mastering it pretty quickly during my free periods at school. It turned out to be a useful tool for my students, but not nearly as important as a lesson I'd learned that day. Sometimes getting your priorities straight means standing up for what you believe in, even if it means walking out of a room full of people. Gina's recovery took time, but with each passing day, her strength grew, and our relationship, it grew stronger too. We'd faced a challenge together and come out the other side, reminding us both of why we'd fallen in love in the first place. I'm a single dad raising my 12-year-old daughter on my own since my wife passed away 5 years ago. My little girl, let's call her Hannah, was born with a rare genetic condition that affects her mobility. She's been using a wheelchair since she was 4. We'd had our challenges, but Hannah's always been a ray of sunshine. Smart as a whip, too. When she started medical school this year, I was nervous but hopeful. The school had a good reputation for inclusivity, or so I thought. From day one, something felt off about the principal. She'd smile at other parents, but barely acknowledge us. I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was just having a bad day. It started with little things. Hannah would come home upset because the principal had made some offhand comment about her taking up too much space in the hallway. Or she'd call me to complain that Hannah's wheelchair was scuffing up the floors. I tried to address these issues calmly. I scheduled a meeting with the principal to discuss my concerns. Thank you for meeting with me. I wanted to talk about some of the comments you've made to my daughter. I'm not sure what you mean. I treat all students equally. Hannah's told me you've made her feel unwelcome because of her wheelchair. Well, you have to understand, her contraption does cause some inconvenience. Contraption? It's a necessary mobility aid. Of course. But have you considered homeschooling? It might be better for everyone. I left that meeting fuming but determined to make it work. Hannah loved her friends and her classes. I wasn't about to let one person's prejudice ruin that for her. Things escalated quickly after that. The principal started implementing new safety policies that seemed targeted at Hannah. No wheelchairs in certain areas. Mandatory helper to push the chair even though Hannah was perfectly capable. Extra paperwork for any accommodations. I filed complaints with the school board, but the wheels of bureaucracy turned slowly. In the meantime, Hannah was becoming more withdrawn. The spark in her eyes was dimming, and it broke my heart. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a Friday afternoon. I was picking Hannah up from school as usual, and as I pulled into the parking lot, I saw a commotion near the front steps. My heart dropped when I recognized Hannah's wheelchair. I jumped out of the car and ran towards the crowd. What I saw will haunt me forever. Hannah was sprawled at the bottom of the stairs. Her wheelchair toppled beside her. She was crying, clearly in pain. And there, at the top of the stairs, stood the principal, looking flustered. I rushed to Hannah, checking her for injuries. Thank God nothing seemed broken, but she was badly shaken and bruised. What happened? Are you okay, Hannah? Hannah, through tears, tells me, She pushed me, Dad. The principal pushed me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I turned to the principal, who was now making her way down the stairs. Is this true? Did you push my daughter? Now, let's not get hysterical. It was an accident. Hannah says, No, it wasn't. You said I was in the way and that I should roll faster. When I tried to explain I needed the ramp, you just pushed me. By now a crowd had gathered. Students, teachers, and other parents were watching the scene unfold. I merely gave her a little nudge. She was blocking the stairs during the fire drill. It's a safety hazard. A safety hazard? You pushed a child in a wheelchair down the stairs. How's that safe? Well, if she wasn't enrolled here, it wouldn't be an issue, would it? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The blatant disregard for my daughter's safety and well-being was staggering. You're out of your mind. I am calling the police. Don't be ridiculous. This is a school matter. Assault is not a school matter. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. The principal tried to grab my phone, but other parents stepped in to stop her. We all saw what happened. It wasn't an accident, a parent said. A teacher added, I can't stand by and let this go unreported. The principal has been targeting this student for months. As we waited for the police and ambulance to arrive, more people came forward with stories. It turned out the principal had a history of discriminatory behavior, not just towards Hannah but other students with disabilities or from minority backgrounds. The police arrived and I gave my statement. Hannah, brave as ever, told them exactly what happened. The officer looked grim as he turned to the principal. Ma'am, I am placing you under arrest for assault of a minor and child endangerment. This is absurd. I was just doing my job. Your job is to ensure the safety of all the students, not to push them downstairs. As they led the principal away in handcuffs, I was shaken with anger, and also relief that she couldn't hurt Hannah anymore. Hannah was checked out at the hospital, thankfully no major injuries, but she was pretty banged up. The school board called an emergency meeting. News vans camped outside our house. In the weeks that followed, we learned the full extent of the principal's actions. She had been systematically discriminating against students with disabilities and minority students for years. Parents came forward with stories of their children being discouraged from enrolling, denied accommodations, or pushed out of the school. The trial was a media circus. The principal's lawyer tried to paint her as a dedicated educator overwhelmed by the challenges of running a diverse school. But the evidence was damning. Emails, witness testimonies, and even security footage painted a picture of a woman on a crusade to create her idea of a perfect school. One that didn't include kids like my Hannah. In the end, the jury didn't buy it. The principal was found guilty on multiple counts of child endangerment, assault, and civil rights violations. The judge didn't hold back during sentencing. Your actions are a disgrace to the field of education and a betrayal of the trust placed in you by parents and students. I sentence you to 10 years in prison with no possibility of parole for 7 years. As they led her away, the principal finally showed a crack in her composed facade. Her outburst only served to confirm what we all knew. Her actions were driven by prejudice, not concern for safety or education. I was just trying to run a good school. Those kids don't belong here. The aftermath of the trial brought significant changes. The school district implemented new training programs and policies to ensure inclusivity. They hired a diversity consultant to review all practices. Most importantly, they appointed a new principal, a woman with a background in special education, and a commitment to creating a truly inclusive environment. It's been 2 years since that terrible day on the stairs. Hannah's in high school now, thriving in ways I never imagined. She is on a debate team and writes for the school paper. I wish it hadn't happened. I wish my daughter hadn't had to endure that trauma, but I'm proud of her. I'm proud of how we came through it. I'm a wrestling coach for a youth team in my hometown. I've been doing this for about 10 years now, and ever since my own kid got into the sport. It's been a wild ride, but I love it. The kids are great, and watching them grow both as athletes and people is really rewarding. Every year we take the team to a big out-of-town tournament. It's become a tradition for a bunch of families to rent a large vacation house together. It's usually a fun time. The kids get to bond, the parents socialize, and everyone saves more money on accommodation. This year we've got about 20 kids and 10 adults staying in this massive house. Now, I've always been a responsible one in a group. I don't drink much, especially not during these trips. Someone's got to keep an eye on things, right? Plus, I take my role as a coach pretty seriously. These parents trust me with their kids, and I'm not about to let them down. So here we are, the night before the big tournament. Most of the kids are asleep, and the adults are winding down. Some of the parents couldn't make it this year, so they sent their kids along with us. It's not unusual, we're all like one big family at this point. I'm just about to turn in for the night when one of our 14-year-old wrestlers, let's call him Will, comes up to me. He looks shaken and I can tell something's wrong. Hey Will, what's up? You should be in bed by now. Coach, I can't sleep here tonight. I'm scared. My heart sinks. This kid's usually pretty tough, so I know something serious must have happened. What's going on, buddy? Talk to me. It's Kurt. He came into my room and he really was drunk. And he got in my bed and started tickling my feet. Then he tried to wrestle with me. I didn't know what to do. I feel like I've been punched in the gut. Kurt is one of the dads who came along on a trip. His son Billy is only 9 and on the junior team. Where's Kurt now? He passed out in the hallway. I waited until he was gone before I came to find you. I'm furious, but I tried to keep calm for Will's sake. Okay, well, you did the right thing by telling me. Let's find you a safe place to sleep for tonight, alright? I set Will up in my room, making sure he feels safe before I go to deal with this mess. It's nearly 4:30 in the morning now, and I'm at loss. I wake up a couple of the other parents to discuss the situation. Their reactions aren't what I expected. Parent 1, look, it's probably not as bad as it seems. Kurt was wasted. He might have thought Will was his own kid. Parent 2, yeah, and if we make a big deal out of this, it'll ruin the whole weekend. The tournament starts tomorrow. I can't believe what I'm hearing. Are you serious? This is a child we're talking about. We can't just brush this under the rug. Come on, coach. Kurt was just tickling and wrestling around. It's not like he did anything really inappropriate. He got into bed with someone else's child. How is that not inappropriate? Look, why don't we sleep on it and see how everyone feels in the morning? I am outnumbered, but I am not backing down. I spent the next hour making phone calls. First, I contact Will's parents to let them know what happened. They are understandably upset but don't want to involve the police or press charges. I'm frustrated, but I respect their decision. Next, I call the tournament organizers to explain the situation. They are sympathetic and agree to let Will compete in a later bracket so he can get some rest. Finally, I file a report with Safe Sport, the organization that handles abuse prevention in youth sports. At least, there will be an official record of the incident. By the time I am done, it's almost 6 a.m. Kurt is still passed out in the hallway. I drag him to an empty room and lock him in. No way am I letting him near any of the kids again. As the sun comes up, the other parents start to wake. They are not happy when they hear what I've done. Karen, Kurt's wife, you had no right to lock my husband up like some kind of criminal. Well, your husband got into bed with someone else's child. What would you have me do? He was drunk. He probably thought it was Billy. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. And what if it had been Billy? Is that how you want your husband interacting with your son? Don't you dare question our parenting. This is all just a big misunderstanding. The argument goes on, with more parents joining in. Some are on my side, but many seem more concerned about the inconvenience than the safety of the kids. Listen up, everyone. Here's what's going to happen. Kurt is going home. Now, Karen, you can stay with Billy if you want, or you can go too. That's your choice. But he's not staying in this house, and he's not going anywhere near that tournament. You can't do that. We paid for this trip. Watch me. Either he leaves voluntarily, or I call the police and let them sort this out. There is a lot of grumbling, but in the end, they know I mean business. Karen and Kurt back up and leave, with Karen shooting daggers at me the whole time. The tournament goes ahead as planned. Will competes and does well, considering everything he's been through. I make sure to stick close to him throughout the day just in case. After we get home, I call a meeting with all the parents. It's time to set some ground rules for future trips. What happened this weekend is unacceptable. From now on, there is zero tolerance for alcohol on these trips. Any parent who can't abide by that doesn't come. Period. Isn't that a bit extreme? A parent asked. You know what's extreme? A grown man getting into bed with someone else's child. I won't let that happen again. There is some pushback, but most parents agree. Those who don't, well, they are welcome to find another team. In the weeks that follow, I work with the league to implement stricter policies for overnight trips. We set up mandatory training for all the coaches and parent volunteers on recognizing and preventing abuse. The Safe Sport report leads to an investigation and Kurt's banned from all youth wrestling events. Some parents think it's too harsh, but I stand by my decision. It's been a tough experience, but I hope some good comes out of it. If it means even one kid is safer, then it's worth all the drama.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.